So, good morning again. Now, we continue in this session on the topic of HRP, Human Resource Planning. So, here you have a flow chart. You may not be able to see this very clearly. So, I will spell it out for you. You have the environment here, because every organization is within a certain environment. So, this is the environment, and these are the organizational objectives and policies, because this is the top management's policies, which is in relation to the organizational objectives. To fulfill those objectives, the policies that are made. This is the HR needs forecast. Who forecasts the needs? The operating departments will forecast the needs, and then it will be collated and consolidated by the HR department. And this is the HR supply forecast. So, who does the supply forecast? The HR department. They are the people who can forecast how much supply is there. Then this is HR programming, HR implementation. Programming is what? Making basic plans on how to balance the needs with the supply. Then the implementation. So, the implementation will be of two types. One is acquiring, that is advertising, the recruitment process, shortlisting, then the selection process, calling them for interviews, interviewing, and then appointing. So, that is the acquiring part of it. And the other part, people are separating also, right. So, the separating part also has to be done. So, when you have a need, you have to have a net need, because some extra people will be required, some people will be leaving. So, what is the net need? That has to be established and implemented. Then control and evaluation of program. Then you find out that what was your plan and how well did you succeed in implementing the plan. That is, after every implementation you should have a self monitoring and see how you did. And then control and evaluation, after that you have the surplus, restricted hiring, reduced hours, VRS layoff, or shortage, recruitment and selection. Okay. If you have been able to do your work perfectly well, there will be complete balance, right. You will have neither shortage nor any need to recruit. So, this is a conceptual representation of the HRP process. Any questions on this? Within the HR department, there will be number of sub departments which will be doing this exercise, total exercise. So, you have the HR department, and you will have some sub departments. So, these sub units or sub departments, one will be recruitment, okay. The other will be planning, okay. Next, the third will be training, fourth will be induction, orientation when new employees come, and coordination between different departments. Okay. Next will be, let us say, separations, those who retire, all right, those who are deceased or those who resign, separations, that is retirement. If people retire, they are given benefits, right? So, planning those benefits. If people die, again benefits are given. Similarly, those who resign, all the processing on the administration of the registration. So, retirement, death, resignation. So, all these subunits must work in coordination with each other to make the HR process which we just saw. So, this conceptual model can be translated into this working organization chart of what happens, and depending on the size of the company, in this HR department you may have a vice president in charge, VP, or you may have a GM, HR, or a manager, depending on how big the organization is. Now, we come to what we call forecasting techniques, because as we said, planning is trying to estimate how many you will require. So, there are some types of techniques. One is managerial judgment, that is by experience you can know, all right, from the past trend and the future businesses, the emerging trends. By experience and judgment you make a forecast. Then ratio trend analysis. We talked about this a little in the last session about if the sales, all right, is 100 and you want to increase the sales to 120, all right, and you had 20 people. So, to increase the sales to 20%, how many people you require? So, that is basically ratio trend analysis. Then work study techniques, Delphi techniques, flow models, and mathematical models. So, these are the various techniques which are available and which we have to choose depending on our company, type of business we are, type of accuracy and sophistication that you want to achieve. But remember, each of these techniques, all right, is only finally giving you a forecast. A forecast is not a guarantee of what is going to happen, isn't it? It remains an estimate. Only thing is, if you use a refined model, you may go from a guesstimate to a estimate. What is guesstimate? Less accurate maybe, more guesswork. An estimate is based on some decision support system, some data, some information. So, the forecasting may be a little better. We will come to that one by one. You guess something, you know, all of us, we when asked a question, we try to find some logic in our mind, and usually that logic is found from experience, when you do not have any data, past experience, that gives you the logic, isn't it? So, and when you guess without any other supporting data, sometimes we call it a guesstimate. That is an estimate made on the basis of a guess, which again comes from your experience, past data, that is guesstimate. And estimate usually is something which is not only on a guess, but it is based on some past facts which may be there, okay, some hard facts, some scientific approach or method and then you arrive at an estimate. Okay. So, managerial judgment method, the top and operating managers participate. That is not only the top managers, but the operating managers. Both bottom up approach and top down approach methods are used. What does it mean? What is bottom up approach and what is top down? It means exactly what it says. Operating managers are at the bottom, top managers are at the top. So, the process may start by operating managers preparing manpower plans and sending up to the top level for approval, and this is the normal process. In normal times, this is the normal process. In unusual times, the other process is there. That is, top people simply give a directive. Directive may be no additional manpower to be taken next year, manpower freeze. But in normal operating times, you have that bottom up approach. So, or the other way, top managers prepare the forecast and send down to the operating level for comments, after which it is finalized. Any questions on this? Anyone who has any work experience here? No one of you? None of you? One? You are all in educational institutions?
No, sir, I am in
Defense. Defense production?
No, the MES, military engineering services.
So, construction and maintenance. Okay. Now, you have participated in some process of planning manpower for your department?
Yes, sir.
What is that you have seen in MES? Is it bottom up approach? They ask you how many manpower you require,
yes,
or
sir,
top down they are told?
They ask from us, sir. They ask the requirement from us, sir.
And then you plan your requirement, send it up, and then you get an approval or approval with some reduction or whatever it is. Okay. Quick method, but may suffer from subjectivity. All right. So, why is he saying quick method, but may suffer from subjectivity? Because hard facts are not there, basically by judgment. What method you used? You did the judgment method in MES? Depending on what method? Depending on number of constructions you will have. So, you require supervisors if the number of sites are increasing. Yeah. If there is a number of sites which increase and you cannot cope with the existing supervisors, otherwise the supervision quality will not be good, then you may ask for new diploma engineer or other supervisor. So, that is not only guesstimate, it is based on some facts which you know about the future. Also, maybe someone is going to retire, that aspect you have to take into account. Okay. So, that is the kind of approach which happen in real life in military engineering services. Next is work study method. All of us are familiar with work study method. This can be used where time standards are available, and we all know what is time standards. Anyone doesn't know what is time standards? All know. So, what is the time standard? You don't know, but he said all know. If you don't know, you ask, then otherwise how will you learn? You know time standard. You don't know?
Defining time for a particular job.
Right. You have to establish the time. That is how you measure productivity. So, any job, if it is a machining component, let us say on a machine, then the industrial engineer or the work study engineer will come with a stopwatch and he will observe for one whole shift or two shifts, three shifts, 3, 4, 5 workmen who are doing the job. So, the job may be involving picking up the raw material, all right, putting it, if it is a press operation, putting it on the press, all right. After that, actuating the press, press comes, some cutouts are made, pick up the work piece, okay, finished piece, stack it onto the bin. Then again you do the repetition. After some time you may take a brush and clean. So there is a process sheet laid down. All of you have had workshop, no? You are mechanical engineers. You have seen machines, you have been in workshop, you operated machines. Then you should know this. You are not, but how would you do it in industry? You have taken industry training in your BTech or BE level? No?
Yes, sir, 60 days.
Then you know what happens in the shop floor. Otherwise, how do you know how many pieces the worker is supposed to produce? So work study started many years ago at the turn of the last century. So scientific school of management, this is the scientific school, trying to apply scientific methods of studying the work, time taken, and something which is connected with it is the method. How that work is being done, is it done by the most efficient method or not? So work study is time and motion study, we also used to call it. And then you keep on measuring and see and try to find out what time it should take, 5 seconds, 8 seconds, 10 seconds, and then you put factors on it to say after all the workman cannot be there for 8 hours on the machine. He has to go to the toilet, there is a fatigue factor, he takes a little break. So adding all that, they say all right, the standard we are saying now, established scientifically by actual measurement, giving all allowances, is every shift, let us say, this piece you should have 1000 pieces. That is the time standard. So that is what he is saying. Where work methods and time standards are available. If it is not available, how do you know? It is guesstimate again. When a standard is there, then on the worksheet, whenever something is processed on the machine, you must have seen in industry, there is a job card which comes along with it, isn't it? How many pieces are to be manufactured, what machine, what tool, what material to be drawn from the stores. So then you know when you are estimating for manpower, all right, you see planned output for next year. Like we said here, 1000 pieces per shift. And this of course we talked about component, but it has to be exploded into how many components you require, each workstation where you are processing it, all right. Because what you are going to get forecast is for the finished goods, isn't it, not for a component. Then the planning process, we will have to see that for X finished good, there may be 200 components in that. Some of these components are made in our factory, some are bought out from vendors. Where is bought out from vendors, we do not have to increase our manpower. Where is made, we have to increase the manpower. So you come down to the level where you estimate, saying planned output for next year is 50,000 units, let us say. Standard hours which you know, because this has to be there, per unit is 8 hours per unit. Planned hours required is 50,000 multiplied by 8. Productive hours per workman per year. What does that mean? You take the holidays, there are 365 days in the year. Count all the Sundays or weekly off, national holidays, okay. Then you also estimate for the average leave that is eligible. Say they have got 8 days of casual leave, and you see historically that every workman takes full 8 days every year. So minus 8 days, finally you come to productive, okay. So many workmen hours, 2000 per hour, and number of workers therefore required is 400,000 divided by 2000 is 200. So this is the work study method. It is just a little scientific method, and this is only possible where the time standard is available. Time standard is not available, then you have to either guess a time standard, estimate a time standard, or look at the past, and from the past you do ratio analysis. That is the next method. Let me ask you, who took training in which factory? Anyone took any training in any factory? Which factory? Rourkela steel plant. And which department? Fertilizer and chemical. So basically pipes and tubes and dials and meters, isn't it? So there the workmen don't do any production work. What do they do? Observation of all the parameters, temperatures, pressure, but the process is done by not the workmen. The chemicals go in, process parameters are set and they are controlled. Anyone did in, yes? National Ball Bearing Company, where? Jaipur. And what was the process?
They are producing bearings.
Okay, ball bearings.
And
But is it one automated plant?
first there is a heat treatment of the balls.
Right.
Then there is a taper division. I took training in taper division.
Okay. So, what were the elements of work there in the taper division? How many workmen did you have?
So around 20.
20. So, they were feeding something into a machine?
Yes, sir.
Huh? Did they have time standard? Not sure. Well, industry training is not supposed to make you an expert, but it gives you a feel and flavor of what happens. Because industry, you have to control productivity, you have to control the material, you have to control the cost. Otherwise, you will end up making a loss. It is different from our laboratory, isn't it? Laboratory, you can waste some material also. Main purpose is to learn. And what you can do in the laboratory, sometimes you cannot do in industry. That is why you have heard of scaling up. You do at laboratory stage, pilot plant stage, but you sometimes unless you scale up and see, you don't know whether it is possible to do it at manufacturing stage. Simple example is cooking. I always give this example. You cook in a house for 4 people and you cook for 300 people in the hall. Do you see how the methods are? You have such a big bowl that you require a strong man with a huge thing to stir it round also. So, the parameters which you control, all right, can be very rough and not very exact as you do in a house in a small scale. So, it is very difficult to get very tasty food in a mess as you will get in your own house, unless you mechanize it. Now, that is what. So, this is the kind of thing which you see. Now, estimating by ratio method is a very quick method and based on studying past ratios. If you do not have work study norms, then you can use this by past. But please remember that past is no guarantee to the future, because things may change. But in the absence of anything else, we as managers, we have to take some decision, all right. Because we do not have data, we can't say we can't decide. So, we have to take by recourse of this method. So, example, total output per number of workers, total, these are the parameters I am saying. Remember, we discussed in the last session some ratios. One may be numerator is output, output means what? Production, number of units or even in rupees, but here it means number of units. Denominator, number of workers. Dot, it may be another ratio, total sales volume, let us say in rupees, by number of salespersons which we said. Then past ratios are used for future forecasts. So, if production last year is 100,000 units and number of workers last year is 100, then estimated production next year, if you get a forecast from production department, is 120,000 units, then number of workers required is 120, that is 120,000 divided by 100,000 in percentage, right, multiplied by 100, 100,000 upon 120, 120,000 upon 100,000 multiplied by 100. So, 120. After computing the above number, adjustments are to be made. This is important, adjustment made for planned separations. Separations also means promotion, mind you, it is not as if they are leaving the company. Some people who are workmen, let us say highly skilled, they are promoted to supervisor. That means they become indirect. All managers are indirect, by the way. they are equally important, but they are not direct, they are not on the machine. So, all managers, to an accountant, all managers are overheads. Did you know that? Overheads we think is something which is unproductive, no? Overheads. So, managers are overheads because their costs are indirect costs, they are not direct costs. So, their costs are allocated. Say you are the general manager production, and in your office your pay and your secretary's pay and all the other costs of the office is 10 lakhs a year, okay, and you have 10 departments in your factory, all right. Maybe 1 lakh will be apportioned as a cost of each of these departments. That means whatever is their cost plus 1 lakh, that is they have to recover your cost also, because they are direct by producing that amount. So, you see, management, you have to stay very lean, you should not increase the head office cost too much or your own by having a big cabin, 3 assistants in your office, because you are overhead. Always good companies, they try to have more direct and less indirect. Questions? Any questions? But the dichotomy is, who is going to question the big boss? So, big boss has to have self-discipline. You should not increase the overheads by profligate spending. In what is happening in our government, every government that comes, they say we must control the fiscal deficit. Have you heard that? Fiscal. How do they try to do it? By cutting down on the expenditure of various ministries, no? Like our Prime Minister has recently said, curb on foreign travel, curb on this, curb on that, they are trying to reduce that. So, all that is overhead. Okay, any questions? Now, we come to your question, what is the Delphi Technique method? Okay. Now, this is a more refined judgmental method. Remember, it is refined but judgmental. And in essence, how do they refine judgment? By taking multiple judgment. That's the essence. My judgment, your judgment, his judgment, his judgment. If you take, the premise is, if we take many judgments, then we get the final judgment which is more accurate than individual judgment. That is the essence of it, and this is the process by which they do it. Process is, hence it can be more accurate than the management judgment method, but it is more time consuming because of the process. The managers involved do not meet face to face, it is not a meeting called in some room. The following steps are involved. The managers are asked to provide manpower estimates on a pre-designed questionnaire. So, HR department, after approval of top management, they make a questionnaire, like if he is going to sales people, is what is the total volume of products and what is in rupee value done last year. Next question, what is the forecast which you have for selling next year? All right. Are you going to be in the same territory where you sell or different territories? If different, which are these territories? All right. What is the mode of travel? Tick off by air, rail, motor car, because time of travel you are trying to, and so on. They make a questionnaire, and the manager asked to provide estimates based on a pre-designed questionnaire to HR department. Each manager then submits his estimate or her estimate anonymously and independently. You do not want to be biased. There are some managers who may be more powerful than other managers. So, HR people do not want to cut his thing, you know. So, no bias, anonymous. The HR department compiles and summarizes the various responses and reports the finding back to each of the manager. Okay. What does it mean? Compiles and summarizes. For various departments, for instance, let us say the production department has asked for manpower finally after the questionnaire, which is 30% more, and the sales are asking for 50% more. I am just giving a case. This is sent back to them. So that the manager says, "Arey, I have asked for 50% more, but production people are asking only for 30%. Let me reassess. Kuch galti to nahi ho gaya, you know. Maybe I am asking for too many. But after all, they have to produce. They are not asking." After receiving the feedback, the managers are surveyed once again for reviewed estimates. So HR says, "Now we are sending you back, look at it now and review estimates and send it back to us. Do you want to change your earlier forecast?" The summaries and surveys are repeated until the manager's opinion tend to agree, because if there is inconsistency between various managers, so after all it is an interconnected company, isn't it? So there has to be a cohesive picture. There cannot be inconsistency. The one department wants too many, the other wants too few for the same volume of production. Ultimately the company has got its plan for the whole year, the whole plan. The plan has to match together. So this is trying to make a complete whole picture of the total manpower required, which will be consistent with each other vis-a-vis the departments. So this is the attempt. The agreement reached is the forecast of the manpower needs. Any questions? Why do they have anonymity? Because often in group processes, when you have groups, usually the dominant members of the group, all right, if the sales were the dominant member, they would somehow convince the group, and the group will fall into a phenomenon called group think, and the decision maybe the sales get 115, 140, although the production gets 120. So anonymity is usually used in group decision making, because this is a group decision making process where individual members of the group cannot influence each other. That is why anonymity is used. Okay. The agreement reached is the forecast. Now this is not very commonly used in industry because it is time consuming. Okay. And this back and forth, you send a paper from HR department and say, "Please let us have your surveys by so and so date." Usually it does not come by so and so date. So you have to give a reminder from HR department. Still it does not come. Some departments send, other departments do not send. So it becomes a kind of time consuming and difficult to administer. So what is normally used is either the management judgment method for macro level, I am saying, or the ratio analysis. These are very, very popular methods which are used. And for lower levels, particularly shop floor, etc., where time standards are available, then of course that is used. Work study method is used. Any questions? Okay. We have another method called flow models method. The simplest flow model is a Markov model. Fix the time period for the forecast. Usually the time period, if it is an annual forecast, is 1 year. But if it is a long range forecast, it may be 5 years, it may be 3 years. Establish employee categories, and these categories are also called in this model as states. Enumerate the flows amongst various categories or states for several time periods. So what could be the category? If you have daily rated workmen, the categories could be unskilled, semi-skilled, skilled, highly skilled. If it is monthly rated workmen or employees as we call them, it could be stenographer 1, stenographer 2, typist, telephone operator, clerical 1, clerical 2, clerical 3. This is the various classification grades with pay scales. So, this could be. So, these are called states also, and for several time periods. Enumerate the flows. Flows means what? There is always a ebb and flow, we said. People come, people go, people are promoted. So, as we said, a highly skilled may be promoted into a supervisor, he goes away from that and may be promoted over 1 year, may be promoted over 2 years, 3 years. So, for several time periods, the flow of manpower that you enumerate. Estimate the probability of flows or movements from one category to another based on past trends in this regard. How many are going to be promoted? How many are going to be separated from retirement? How many will resign and go, particularly at higher levels? Lower levels you do not find resignations as such. Once you take someone, he is there till he retires or is sacked. The disadvantage is that there is a heavy reliance on past data. Everything you do, you are doing on the past, unless you have some new projects which are on the anvil, some diversification project, where some of the skills which will be required for the new project are already available here. Then you can plan that some of the senior people from here would get a chance, some junior people would be needed from here to form a nucleus which can start the operations of the new factory till more are inducted. So, unless you have this, that you have to factor that in, otherwise you rely more or less on past data. Okay? Any questions? All right. Then last is we have mathematical models method. So, mathematical models express relationship between independent variable and dependent variable. So, independent variable is production, for instance, sales, all right, and dependent variable is number of workers required, for example. The following model is widely used for forecasting employee needs, and that model is expressed as En bracket E lag n plus g to the power 1 upon x, where En is the estimated number of workers required in a number of years, that is at the planning periods, maybe 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 3 periods you are taking. L aggregate is the overall or aggregate level of annual business activity in rupees for the time period. G is the total growth in business activity estimated through period n in today's rupees. So, one estimate is put into this, remember. How do you estimate this? You have the other methods available, isn't it? You may do it by management judgment method. What is the estimate of future business? You may do it by trend analysis method, but this will be one of the inputs to this equation. X is the average productivity improvement estimated from today. How do you estimate productivity improvement? You may have signed an union agreement. In that agreement, they have agreed to increase productivity by 10%. Now, whether it happens or not is uncertain, is it not? It depends on so many factors. whether it is possible in the first place, or union agreed to it so that they could close the agreement and get the salary increase. Whether even if it is possible, whether the management has got the will to implement it, because when you sign the agreement, the money has been given. The productivity improvement, okay, the management has to see that by supervision and other means, they have to get the increased productivity. But this is an estimate which you put in, productivity estimate. So, is the average productivity improvement estimated from today through planning periods n, that is x is equal to 1.08, it means an average productivity increase of 8%. Okay. And with this, so you are factoring in the productivity increase. Y is the level of business activity per worker. Today total level business activity divided by current member, it is number of personnel. So, Y is the level of business activity per worker, total level of today's business divided by the current. So, business activity means rupees, for instance. So, total level of today's rupees divided by current number of personnel. So, again rupees per person. So, that is Y. It does not appear. This is an adjustment then. In this model, it is not appearing. Y is the level of business activity per worker, total level of today's business activity divided by the current number of personnel. We will give a clarification on this. Okay. The purpose of this model is to predict En, that is the level of personnel required in a period or periods. Before applying the model, estimate of G, X and Y must be made. Such estimates are based on the previous experiences of the management as well as on the future strategic choices to which the organization decision makers are committed. Okay, this will clarify, because here it says Y is also an estimate, right? It is not actual, whereas this says current number, today's level of business. Today's level is known, it is not an estimate. So, this clarification we will give. Now, we come to HR supply forecasting. So, one was demand, which is the need in the organization. Next is the supply, from where from are you going to get it. The analysis for supply of manpower covers existing human resources, skill and management inventories, internal sources of supply. Usually internal sources are by promotion essentially. You train people and then promote them. Normally you train them on the job, sometimes you give them outside training and after that you promote them, and external sources of supply. The demand and supply forecasts have to be balanced and steps taken to eliminate any mismatch. Monitoring stroke audit and control have to be maintained for keeping the quality and quantity equilibrium. So, this is the general process of human resources planning. And to sum up, you can say HRP consists of trying to estimate what will be the required need of human resource in the future, maybe 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and how to implement it. That is, how much is required and how much is acquired, how to implement it by recruitment and selection. And also to see that in the process you balance what is the estimate with what is the final recruitment and selection, so that the most economical use is made, right, of the manpower that you deploy in the company. Another concept which we covered is that in this HRP there is a nuance difference between MP and HRP. That is, HRP is addressing the individual, the human and humane aspects, and MP is looking at the macro level of manpower, what classification, what numbers, but not individually as human being. So, therefore, looking at individual as human being, it concentrates also on such issues as motivating the human being, developing the human being, all right, and getting organization commitment from the human being. So, these are the additional nuances, the additional areas which HRP. So, you can say in that sense that MP is a subset of HRP. HRP is the total planning process and the implementation process. Implementation process, I said earlier, recruitment, selection, separations, etc. There are various departments in the HR total, various subsections or subunits in the HR department. Each is concerned with these subunit activities. Okay. Any questions? All right. Then we will end this session, and next time we will take up recruitment and selection. That is how to acquire after making the plan. Thank you very much.